It's common for men to spot a woman and talk with each other randomly. Depending on how attractive she is, you'll often see conversations like her body count. In fact, a common stereotype is that men believe a woman has slept with many men, or simply believe she doesn't sleep with any. The fact of the matter is that women are simply human, and they have their own needs when it comes to sexual intimacy. Unfortunately, men often don't know a woman's body count, but thanks to psychology, we now understand how frequent sexual partners can alter human behavior. This video will show you 12 of the most common signs that a woman has had numerous sexual partners. But first, we need to find out what causes this. Why do women have more sexual partners than men? Since men tend to usually talk about their intimate moments more than women, many assume that men have far more sexual partners than women. However, this is not the case. You see, society has removed the freedom for women to openly talk about these things, and this is why we often don't have any idea about a woman's sexual history. If you're to go by the numbers, women have, on average, more sexual partners than men. You see, women tend to give their bodies in return for love, whereas men tend to give love in return for intimacy. Once a relationship doesn't work out, women are generally quite reserved about their time with their partners, and this tends to fade away. One of the reasons women don't want to actively mention their sexual history is simply due to the fact that they're judged. However, women tend to be far more naive, often believing that every man she falls in love with will ultimately be the one she marries. Once you've chosen that a man is someone you're willing to marry, sleeping with him doesn't seem like such a big deal. On the other hand, women also tend to make mistakes, and this can be due to a single drunk night out with friends, which starts to rack up the numbers when it comes to body count. These mistakes are often compounded by psychological and emotional trauma, which stem from a woman's time growing up or being in abusive relationships. But as a man, it's easy to simply sit back and judge, without knowing or even understanding the full context of the situation. Aside from all these issues, it's worth noting that every man seeks a partner who has had limited sexual partners, and you're probably one of these men. If you've been worried about how many partners your girlfriend has slept with, the following 12 signs are important to look out for. Number 1. She is rather familiar in big social circles. One of the most important psychological things we've seen when it comes to women is their inability to be alone. Since the dawn of the FOMO epidemic, women who are not in relationships always wanted to be part of what's going on, which brings them in contact with more and more men. Since everything is a numbers game, it's worth noting that the more interactions she has with men, the more likely she is to meet someone she considers a viable partner. Things will naturally progress from here, which leads to another notch on the belt of the body count. This means that whenever you see a woman being popular in various social circles, without a reason, like being a singer or whatever else, you can be pretty sure she's had numerous sexual partners as well. Some women might not be like this, but for the vast majority of women, the probability of this is quite high. Number 2. She has new boyfriends frequently. Another important thing to keep in mind is that women don't like being alone. Much like most people who are in big crowds but still feel alone, women also have this massive urge. Unfortunately, many women choose the wrong partners, and they often find themselves in and out of relationships. Nowadays, it's not uncommon for men and women to sleep together frequently during the initial stages of the relationship, and this means that she could likely sleep with the men she's frequently dating. As mentioned, women tend to give intimacy when they desire love, and this frequently happens with every new boyfriend. If your partner has had a multitude of previous relationships, you can be quite confident that she's racked up quite an extensive body count. However, this is not an exact science, and you'll need to consider some of the other psychological factors on the list we're also about to discuss. Number 3. She likes to bring up these conversations. If a woman hasn't had a big sexual history, she's more reserved when it comes to this kind of pillow talk. You see, many women who don't have experience might want to avoid this conversation due to their own moral values and the kind of person they might be. Women with lots of experience can be easily seen in the way they communicate about this topic. You see, every person needs to have some experience if they're going to engage in these talks. So if she's the one frequently bringing up the conversation, it might be a sign that she's had a plethora of sexual partners. Number 4, she has a naturally seductive personality. This one can be extremely daunting to define, but women who have a seductive personality also tend to be more extroverted. If she's willing to seduce you so easily, you can be quite sure that she's done the same to most other men she's dated. Since there are many men out there with incredible charm, it'll seem like a match made in heaven between the two of them, and it naturally runs the course of a possible relationship or even intimacy. A woman who tends to seduce you early on in a relationship is likely doing it to others as well. Whilst it can be fun to have a seductive partner, you have to consider watching till the end of the video to look at some of the other signs. You see, to fully discern whether or not a woman does have a body count, it's often a variety of these facts that add up to give a clear and precise indication. Number 5, she tells you men only use her. Another one of the more explicit signs that a woman has had numerous partners is when she talks about how she was only used in some of her previous relationships. You see, a woman who has a lot of relationship experience will naturally be more inclined to wait and take things slow. Since many men tend to sleep with these women, she'll want you to prove yourself to be different before she allows something more sensual or even sexual to happen. Now, this can be a single big breakup, but if a woman likes you, all the frustration and emotional turmoil associated with this will simply melt away. We would advise you to slowly listen to how she talks and to see if she exhibits any of the other signs. For example, a woman who can freely talk about intimacy but tells you that she wants to wait because men only use her is a clear-cut sign of someone who has had to endure numerous sexual relationships that didn't work out. This is how you can see that these signs often compound. Women will show more than one if they have a big body count. Number 6. She frequently talks about open-mindedness. You've probably been on many dates where moral principles were one of the conversational themes. You see, a woman will never openly admit that she's had numerous sexual partners until she has enough information to have an idea of how you will react. One of the main ways modern societies have allowed women to sneak in these questions is by using the word open-mindedness. You see, open-mindedness is just a simple way of preparing you not to judge her when she reveals her secrets. The problem is that many men are quite steadfast in their beliefs, and this tends to become problematic for a woman when she wants to be honest, without any fear of being judged. It's often better to simply play along with her and allow her to talk about being more open-minded. This should give her the comfort and freedom to reveal these secrets. However, when she does this, it's up to you to be honest and simply walk away without making her feel like she's being judged. The great Jordan Peterson famously said that you should judge a woman harshly by her past, but this doesn't mean spreading it to everyone else who's willing to listen. Number 7. Her social circle is diverse. Social circles are a complicated thing, and as we age, we tend to have numerous social circles instead of one large group that gets together every week. Women are the same, and they might have friends from high school or even co-workers who have never met one another. Whilst this by itself is not a sign, it does add to some of the other signs that she could be seeing numerous partners from each of these social circles. By keeping these friends away from one another, she believes that no one will find out how many partners she may have had. However, it will definitely be revealed when you start spotting numerous signs that tend to indicate this. Number 8. Many male friends. One of the oldest sayings is that men need to be friends with men, whereas women should rather stick to being friends with other women. Unfortunately, the female mind has become somewhat assertive in recent years, which has led to many women butting heads. On the other hand, men have become weaker, and they're now slowly becoming the women of the past, willing to be friend-zoned and listening to all the emotional baggage and drama that women need to get rid of. For this reason, you'll frequently hear women tell you that they don't want to have more female friends and would rather want to stick to having men around them. The problem is that men and women will naturally connect, and this is something that cannot be stopped. In fact, we're biologically programmed to desire men or women. This means that even though she tells you just how close she is with these male friends, the possibility of intimacy is always something that could happen. We would recommend that you rather avoid women who prefer to have mainly male friends and who tend to believe that these men are not on the prowl for sexual intimacy. Number 9. Knowledge about relationship dynamics. Relationship dynamics have risen significantly since the inception of psychological information, and psychology has become such a large part of society. You see, women who tend to delve deeper into these things also want to experiment to see if some of these facts or claims might possibly be true. If you have a conversation with a woman who clearly understands various relationship dynamics, especially when it comes to things like polygamy and open relationships, it might be something she's already considered somewhere in life. Relationship dynamics can be rather daunting to understand for many people, but when someone has extensive knowledge, they have probably also had a few partners during their knowledge-building process. More relationships increase the likelihood and probability that she might have had more sexual partners. However, this is also something you'll need to corroborate with some of the other signs that are in this video. It's always about finding signs and then cross-examining them with other things to see if a woman might exhibit numerous behavioral issues. Number 10. She has had a lot of trauma. Trauma is one of the biggest issues that society tends to deal with. Unfortunately, everyone faces some kind of trauma at some point in their lives, and this is something that tends to stem from sexual encounters or personal abuse. If a woman has a lot of trauma, especially when it comes to relationships, her probability of numerous sexual partners will also increase significantly. You'll need to spend some time to get to know her to figure this out, but with the right questions and a couple of dates, you should be able to delve into these specific topics. To understand a woman's trauma, you'll have to delve into her upbringing, and once you establish the family dynamics she had to face, it becomes that much easier to see if she's had numerous partners or not. Number 11. She's on many dating apps. Another massive sign of frequent partners is how often she hangs around dating apps. However, this is not a clear cut and might be a little offensive to some people. Unfortunately, some women are attractive to men, whereas others are trying their best to find at least one interested guy. These women don't have a lot of sexual partners, and they're simply seeking some actual companionship. But let's face it, an attractive woman doesn't have any need to be on a dating app, and she'll probably meet someone interested, which could lead to a relationship. If a woman is attractive and playing around on dating apps, she'll naturally have a ton of matches, which translates to many dates. Whilst she might claim that these dates don't have anything to do with intimacy, the probability significantly increases, and she'll eventually give in to some of the men. A woman who spends a ton of time on dating apps probably has been with numerous partners as well. Number 12. She is desensitized to intimacy. Finally, this is the most important one you need to look for. You see, the more we experience something, the more we tend to become desensitized to what it is we're doing. The same is true when it comes to intimacy. If someone is desensitized to intimacy, it means they have experienced it quite a few times, but it also means that she's not that into you. You see, a woman who likes you will be quite eager to jump in bed, and even willing to be all in for a relationship. You can figure out if a woman is desensitized by how she communicates about intimate topics, and if she actually gets turned on when you do things that should turn her on. This will be one of the most powerful signs to see if a woman has slept with multiple partners. If you want to know how to effectively turn a woman on, make sure to check out one of our other videos on this channel, where we reveal all the weaknesses that every woman has. Unfortunately, judging whether someone has slept with numerous partners is not an exact science, and it's often very circumstantial. However, we recommend that our subscribers always focus on probabilities and make judgments based on these probabilities. The more signs you see, the higher the probability tends to be.